Hey everybody, welcome to Local Business Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Case, and I'm on a mission to help you. Every week, we're going to be talking to local business owners and experts to get their best tips, tricks, and hacks to grow your business. This show is designed to teach you, inspire you, and motivate you to take massive action and start to build your future-proof business. Whether you're just starting off or you're taking your existing business to the next level, this episode is for you. So let's get started. Hey, local business hackers. I'm your host, Director of Global Business Development at Referrizer, joined today by CEO and co-founder of US Cryotherapy, Kevin Kramer. Kevin, welcome to Local Business Hacks.
Thanks, Carl, for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So I'm familiar with US Cryotherapy. For those that aren't familiar with you and your personal journey to get to this point, talk to me about you and everything that you've done in your past that brought you here.
Well, looking back, it seems ironic, but it's been 10 years now. Back in 2010, we founded the whole body cryotherapy industry in North America. So we opened the first retail treatment center in Northern California, which is our home base. My dad had found the technology in Europe and was really interested in it, had visited a couple of centers while he was traveling. Whole body cryotherapy is used in the hospital clinics there at that time, and then it was popping into retail space. So he just got interested and suggested that the family get together and start the industry. And so we put a business plan together, found the equipment, and off and running in 2011.
That's awesome. And fast forward today, where is US Cryotherapy? How can people get involved?
So we slowly expanded through proof of concept. Of course, opening the first cold therapy treatment center took some time to adjust people to. But it's fairly well understood. The industry has emerged. It's still a nascent industry, really. There are competitors now. We've grown to 25 retail locations. 6 of those are company owned. So we've expanded slowly, but we've bootstrapped the whole thing, never taken an investment. And of course, the pandemic threw some twists into operations and revenues, but we're starting to get all of that back and getting a lot more interest in franchising units again, and potentially adding some company owned and maybe even bringing in some growth capital. So things are starting to look up.
Awesome. And for people trying to get involved, uscryotherapy.com.
Yeah, you can find us there, all the locations, any of the corporate information.
Awesome. And as far as growth from the franchising perspective, are you guys looking to grow internationally, focused on domestic in the US? Talk to us a little bit about that.
The primary focus is the US marketplace, eventually be North America. Health Canada still has a block on cryotherapy from the liquid nitrogen death that occurred in one of the units. And so we're working through some of those things. We have US manufacturing and service now, as opposed to when we launched, we imported everything out of Europe. So we're in a good space there. So yeah, we're looking to expand our franchise units. And I think growth right now, this industry is all about sort of the service offering, the customer service, the outcomes, the safety, and then really being able to demonstrate your average unit volume. And that's extremely important. We're working a lot on that right now from a marketing standpoint, and then look to really significantly grow again here. We were 35% year over year growth through 2019, which was really good for a startup, business. We need to get back to that and start adding units. So internationally, I didn't fully answer your question. Sorry. Internationally at this time, through a partnership, there's some logistical challenges with the equipment in terms of shipping, installing, and servicing the equipment. And so we will do it only through an investment partnership where somebody's looking for exclusive rights in a country and then wants to invest in some of the infrastructure.
Awesome. uscryotherapy.com, people.
You got it.
Cool. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this journey that you've had over the last 10 years in the cryo space. And then before that, I can imagine that you've learned some things that you've paid an idiot tax for along the way. So I welcome you to share some of those stories that are your local business hacks and what really taught those.
I think that's probably the key. You really never can predict all of the curves in the road. I spent 23 years in big pharma. I worked through senior executive level positions, but you're always working for a large corporation. You have sort of that buffer, that backstop. Founding an industry, starting a business concept. We planned very well for marketing and awareness of the services. I have the clinical background, so the physiology and the understanding of really what cold shock therapy does for the body was sound. But, you just can't ever predict what's going to happen. The influx of all of the European liquid nitrogen distributors as it was sort of being shut down in the European market, but introduced into the Wild West without regulatory parameters here in the United States, the competition, really the pirating of all of the information, pretty much the entire whole body cryotherapy industry today. And there are a couple of leadership brands now, but it's all built from the foundation of the awareness and education and really the retail environment, treatment environment that we started. So you can't predict how that's going to grow and what's going to happen with competition. You can't predict a lot of things around sort of equipment and distribution rights and what will happen there. And then franchising for me was the only part of the business that was completely a new entity. I had never been involved in anything quite like that. And there are a lot of surprises, both pleasant and unpleasant when it comes to that. So you can put your best business plan together, but my advice to any entrepreneur startup is to really fund and make sure you have some business capital, some subsidy to really understand your proof of concept. Most people want to expand really fast, right? I've got this idea. I want to start it. I want to launch it. I want to grow it. And unfortunately, too fast growth, it really can be a hindrance at times because you need to take a step back and look at everything operationally. And I think we've done that fairly well as a family-run business. We've been very conservative. We bootstrapped it. I've had so many requests for people wanting to buy the state of Virginia franchising rights, area distribution rights. And we just haven't gotten into that. We really want to partner with each franchisee and make sure that they run a successful operation before we consider expansion. The other thing that really took me by surprise, and I hope that it's changing a little bit post-pandemic, is people's lack of general interest or understanding, I guess I'll put it, for treating the body, for really treating for self-health and wellness. You have to educate, and it takes multiple times to be in front of somebody before they actually come into a center and go, okay, I've heard about this 5 or 6 times. Now I'm here. Once they come in and the way that they feel, the recovery and the wellness and the reduction of stress, the improvement in mood, the energy, all of it, they become hooked, right? They understand treating the body means a lot for better immune system function, just better health. But it is so hard to crack that. It really is. To get people to understand, to spend money on their personal health and wellness.
Yeah, I think our listeners, I've drilled into all of you listening that healthcare is not sick care. It is preventative so that you don't ever need sick care, hopefully.
Yeah.
So definitely agree. I think, in the whole body cryo space specifically that you live in, it's incredible how we could spend an hour on the phone with a potential candidate to come in and experience minutes of what we do. Because whole body cryo, you're talking about a couple of minutes to really feel and see the results.
Yeah. So, when we launched, obviously the core is the cold shock systemic treatment of going into a whole body chamber, right? And that's a 2.5 to 3.5 minute procedure. You come out, you rewarm very quickly. It's not as cold as you thought it was going to be at the temperatures that are listed. And those are irrelevant anyway. It's all about the skin temperature change during the exposure, which activates the central nervous system. I mean, the great thing about that is that it releases modulating hormones and proteins for protection and repair, something that we can't sympathetically stimulate in our environment today, right? Your body's designed to be exposed to heat and cold shock. And so when it does that, it floods the body with endorphins and norepinephrine, which is a neurotransmitter and an anti-inflammatory, and it's great for recovery. And then we complement that with other recovery modalities throughout our center. And the rest of the industry is caught on and follows that as well. But doing compression therapy or deep muscle percussion, or now doing red light therapy is becoming very popular for cellular recharging. We do hydromassage bed therapy. We're doing slimming and toning in our centers, which people want to come in and get rid of a little of that excess fat, or do, cold laser facials. It's a lot less invasive in replacing the cool sculpting or the liposuction. So it's really a mega wellness center, if you will, in terms of what we do. But when you think about massage, right, my analogy is always that I think people got massages for wellness and health back in the 80s and 90s, but it really blew up when you got to the whole chain model of like a Massage Envy, for example, right? And then all of a sudden there's massage, it's everywhere, right? And I think we're still emerging in that space with whole body cryotherapy. Ultimately, people will realize the health benefits and be looking for centers in their communities.
Well, I definitely appreciate the insight, and thank you for the overseeing what you've dealt with as a brand growing and throughout these times, I think it brings a great prelude to my next question, which is, what do you think in your industry that is forever emerging is the biggest challenge that you're currently facing? And how is US Cryotherapy really positioning itself to handle that challenge?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in any retail services environment or fitness, which really both of that whole industry was hit very hard by the pandemic, based on closures at first and then essential health and wellness centers remaining open, but mostly people looking at discretionary spending, right? What type of disposable income do they have and where do they want to use it? What I'm finding is coming out of this whole sort of pandemic mode that most people were in, they are starting to look for alternative health and wellness, outlets. That's good. But the challenge in our business is always going to be attracting new customers. How do you acquire the customer? Because it's not a direct path like most marketing. Like for US Cryotherapy, we're nationwide for the most part. We're in 9 different states, but we can't do a national marketing campaign around whole body cryotherapy benefits. It just doesn't translate to getting people into the center. So we have a whole roadmap in terms of how you work in the community. Social media is a big part of that, how you advertise, how you market through email and other campaigns to acquire the customer. And then where we are hyper-focused is on the delivery of the most superior services and the best outcomes in the industry at the most sustainable price point. People think that it's, I don't think I can afford it. But in reality, if you join on a membership at one of our centers, it might cost you $10 or $12 a visit because most people come in 12 to 15 times a month. And that's less than going to In-N-Out Burger right now, right? So once people realize those things, and that's through the customer service and the orientation to the centers, and then understanding what the expectations and outcomes are, we're really good at retaining and building long-term customer value. But it's getting them in the door with an understanding of why they would come. People will hear ads and things, they'll see things on social media, but most people, it just doesn't click. Why do I need to go to a facility like that to treat my body, to improve my immune system function, to get better sleep, right? There's things that you just have to be able to get through to the new customer market to get them into the centers.
Yeah, and I think it presents an interesting point. And obviously you and I know this, but can you really afford not to? And what are the significant health benefits to where if you're not doing whole body cryo or not investing in your body, what is your long-term repercussion that you're not seeing from an immediate investment perspective? So,
it's a macro injury, or it's a sickness that, takes longer than it should to get over, or it's an acute injury that takes you out of commission for weeks to months. And the thing about treating the body is it's really, okay, I'll narrow it all down. It's all whole body, it's inflammation. Starts in the gut, right? Everyone's talking about it. It starts as a microbiome issue and then it turns into inflammation. When your body becomes overwhelmed with inflammation, the immune system doesn't know how to treat that because we're not exposed to these heat and cold shock temperature changes that actually help the body with its efficiency. So when you think about whole body inflammation, think about now the preponderance of autoinflammatory diseases and all of these things that are happening. Did you remember 10 people that had celiac or Crohn's, or did you know of all of that stuff? Lupus when we were young, when you were a kid, when you were in school, was 10 out of every 20 kids carrying an EpiPen? They weren't, because the food allergies and things that you're exposed to environmentally, it all has to do with the immune system.
Wait, you mean to say, I just read an article in 1960. Do you know what the average human intake of sugar was per week?
In 1960?
Yeah.
Per week? I don't know. I'll say a half a cup.
It was under 20 grams.
Under 20 grams. Okay.
Now we have 20 grams in a serving of a drink.
Yeah. No,
it's normal.
Yeah.
It's incredible that we don't even look at what these root causes are, but at least US Cryotherapy is able to treat it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all we ever claim, right? Is that we're really good at reducing systemic inflammation. And the byproduct of that is that it helps you and your body really effectively manage whatever's happening with it at the time. You could have sleep issues. That has to do with having too much cortisol floating around at night. The nice thing about when you come to our centers is that we're releasing these hormones and proteins. Eventually they get neutralized and that reduces cortisol levels. So everybody, we've done 4 million treatments without incident, and our testimonials are phenomenal, right? And that's important because as the word spreads, we provide outcomes. We have unbelievable recoveries. People are experiencing better sleep, mood, skin. And so if people know those things, then they'll end up showing up, and trying it.
For those of you just listening, I want to get Kevin to repeat that one more time. How many treatments have you guys done?
Over 4 million treatments.
Woo! And never a hiccup. So if you guys
never a hiccup, 10 years, never. Yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah. And, never like to diminish any other business, but contrary to using liquid nitrogen units where your head's sticking out of the top, they're blowing in gas and they're cooling from the bottom up. And I don't think that they can make the same claims. So we're doing a whole body walk-in refrigerated environment where your skin temperature, which is all that matters, drops in the core areas that are really important to activating the central nervous system. Our outcomes are much more complete and it's a lot safer.
Love that. Well, congratulations to you and the brand. 4 million plus treatments. That's pretty cool to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a good one that I think goes hand in hand with this as well. And that's when we talk about marketing campaigns. Obviously, the word marketing, me being a marketer myself, I've learned that it comes in so many different ways, shapes, and sizes.
Yeah.
But talking about offers, because when we talk about offers with cryo businesses and med spas and hyper wellness studios all the time, talk to me a little bit about what has been one of the greatest offers that US Cryotherapy has run or is currently running as far as getting a consumer to come experience you. Because we know that once they experience you, it's over with and they'd be silly not to come back.
Yeah. That's an interesting topic that transcends industries because it's really how do you get people through the door?
Yeah.
And we've experimented with everything. We started with an extremely low cost model. We started with a first time free service experience. We learned over the course of about 2 years, we built up a decent sized membership at our flagship center. But when you start looking at revenues that you're generating from that based on recurring memberships at a really low rate, we recognized that we have a value proposition that we really need to portray to people. And we're not going to get everybody that wants to come in at a discount and spend $10 somewhere. You're just not going to get that. So you got to know where your business lane is. And the reality of it is that we're a premium provider with the best outcomes and the services that can make people feel better. And if you truly have an issue, you've got a sprained a knee, your back is spasming, you're not sleeping well, you're stressed from work, whatever those issues are, if you come in and find us, you are going to experience some recovery. And it's compounding. You can't expect that you come one time and you don't go to the gym once and be like, I'm good, right? So the reality of it is you have to ask people to give you 30 days. So what we do right now is that we just credit a first-time customer treatment. So the uniquely new customer that comes in, they pay X amount for, multiple touch service. We're talking them through the whole process. And then we say, hey, look, give us 30 days. If you do that, we'll show you the benefits that compound and we'll credit what you spent today towards your enrollment of your first month with no commitment. We found that's the best program, but we don't discount a lot. We're not doing Groupons anymore. It just doesn't attract the right customer and clientele. And we're an elite med spa. We want people to get better, feel better, stay, utilize our services routinely for better health. And for that, you can't really pop in a bunch of weird promos.
Love that. It's an awesome offer, definitely unique, and clearly it's shown success through the brand. So good job on navigating through those waters.
Yeah, it took some time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I got one on a more personal level.
Okay.
If you could give your younger self a piece of advice before starting your entrepreneurial journey, obviously knowing what you know now, what would older Kevin tell younger, less experienced Kevin coming from the pharmaceutical world and this sick care world?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm really proud of what we've done as a family, as a founder and leader in the space. But sometimes it's not best to be first to market.
Yeah.
I mean, just being honest, right? If you can sit back and evaluate models, I think if you look at Restore Hyper Wellness, it's one of our main competitors. and has expanded through funding significantly.
And through their marketing company.
And through their marketing credit. Being second to market, they evaluated everything that we did. They added a whole another service element on the injectables and drip side. And so we're building a business as a family run organization. You have limited capital to do the things that you want to do. I probably would go back and say, build your first location, prove the concept, and then raise a significant amount of capital on that to quickly expand. And we did franchising as a means to expand our brand. And we have some great franchisees, and it's been good relationships as it relates to that. But you need to be in key market areas. And so we were in Northern California, and then we slowly started to expand. I'd have picked the top 20 markets in the US and dropped in big corporate centers to expand the brand more via funding, right? If you are limited in terms of capital, then you can't do the things that you really need to do. And we're still slowly growing, and that's a good thing. And eventually we will get some growth capital. We'll get an equity partner, and we'll add more company-owned centers and continue to enhance and expand the brand. And then the second part of that is always be looking for the new elite recovery modalities, because people associate with what's happening in professional sports and how these people are recovering, because it's extremely important to them in their careers, and try to continually expand your operation. I don't think we thought that way at the beginning. So, it's hindsight. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And now you get to say that you were the pioneer of the industry, which is pretty cool to say. 4 million treatments later.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that doesn't always come with the same pop as having 150 locations, but we're really proud of what we've done. That's
awesome. Well, Kevin, I so appreciate you and your journey, and our listeners all over the globe for tuning in and wanting to get involved. USCryotherapy.com people. Yep. And we look forward to supporting you as US Cryotherapy continues to expand.
Thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to head over to our site, local-business-hacks.com, to check out the show notes and send me questions or ideas for future episodes. If you want to grow your business, just like the people you've heard from here, follow Local Business Hacks Podcast and tune in for new tips, tricks, and tactics. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep hacking.